Dearest Helen, thank you so much for answering our questions. Your presence and your words have helped me so much in my own awakening. I was wondering if you could speak about the time on your journey where you started experiencing completely allowing thoughts and emotions at the same time, not interfering with them or going into them. That is the perfect balance to me. To me, this is what it means to love, to surrender, where we are not listening to any voice or anything, but completely open and allowing of everything, altogether, including ourselves. What was that like? And what I'd especially like to know, how did that come about for you? Could you go into that specifically, please? Also, how did you function differently in the world and in relation to interacting with other people? Thank you very much. Well, let me start by saying it came about in a gradual way. It wasn't as if I suddenly stopped listening to thoughts in my life all at once. It'd be nice if it happened that way, but there were certain areas of my life where I could just turn away from thoughts and completely be open and unassuming, like we were just practicing now. And little by little, as I examined the thoughts in those areas, then in these other areas, there was just thoughts. They were no longer my thoughts or didn't have any meaning for me. So bit by bit, the compulsion to listen to thoughts and to push them away, to either agree with them or push them away, began to fall away. And it is love, as you said here, is love, is what would love do with the mind? How would love treat the mind? What would it be trying to push, pull all the time, like we've been speaking about? What happens when we stop doing that? And it's the experience of that, what that was like. It's utter freedom, really. It's total freedom. That your mind can say anything at all, and it has no effect. You can imagine, right, what that would be like. And maybe you just experienced it for a short while. And that any external voice can say anything at all, and it has no effect. We listen to the voice to make sure it might be telling us something useful that we can use. But we're not going to let it define how we feel, whether it's an internal voice or external. And there was a lot of peace that came with that as well, a lot of peace that has never gone. Little by little, I unplugged myself from my mind in different areas. When I think about my financial situation, when I think about my children, when I think about my awakening. And then bliss. Joy and just an immense sense of freedom. And really it's more experienced as if the world is just happening and you're just here watching. You're just enjoying this show that is life. And that show becomes more and more pleasant when you're not listening to thoughts. Some thoughts we can just turn away from. That was my experience. That's just not true. And I come back to the silence, to this moment. Other thoughts I had to really examine because they kept sticking to me like flypaper, you know. I'm sure you've experienced that. And sometimes as soon as I let go of those thoughts, they disappeared. Sometimes they hung around and just wanted to see if I would play with them for a while longer. But there is a point where, when we're practicing this openness and unassumingness that we're doing here today, where you can no longer automatically believe a thought. Even if there are thoughts, they are looked at and questioned as a habit. You know, is that true? Do I have to buy that? then you're not on this up and down roller coaster that is human existence. My mind says something nice to me, I feel really good. My mind says something terrible and I feel really, really bad for a really long time. And it is surrender, as you say. The actual root meaning of the word surrender, I've probably said this before, but is to give back. To give back. If you actually look at the etymology of the word, it means to give back. Not to give, but to give back, which means to give something back that was never mine, ever. Give it back. At some point I took it on accidentally, and to give it back. So just to give back this idea that I have to reference my mind as the ultimate resource for understanding my experience. How did I function differently in the world and in relation to interacting with other people? Well, I could spend an hour talking about that, but well, let me just say I could actually function. I wasn't like paralyzed by fear, by guilt, shame, anger, and my relationships began to really blossom in a way that I didn't even know was possible. I thought I knew what love was before this, and then it showed me, actually, you don't really. Here's some more, here's some deeper. And it's a kind of a relaxed contentment of, however this moment is going is absolutely fine. It'd be nice if it went this way, but if it's going this way, it must be because life's trying to give me what I want in a different way to the way I think it's going to come. Must be going my way. There's a trust in life as well. There's an allowance for everyone exactly as they are. What is that like? Can you imagine what that's like to not need to change anyone or yourself, you know? I tried to describe that 1,000 times and never really feel like I get it, but I hope that gives you a taste of it from your question.